right, today we're going to be working on a Headhunter Mach 5 water pump. That's the guy right there. Woo. That's not a pool pump or a spa pump. That's a water pump for an RV. Let's take a look at it. There it is right there. It's a big guy. Now this is about $1,000 pump. This is what most of these big buses are going to be using for city water, not for city water, but for actual water pump when you're dry camping and you're not hooked up to city water. So this gives you basically city water pressure and volume. It doesn't use a diaphragm in the pump. It doesn't use a blade type. Well, so a little bit different impeller inside there. And all these are actually pretty durable. The biggest problems that you will usually run into is that it will start leaking. And it usually leaks underneath, right at the base here. It's kind of hard to see water coming out right there. Not there, because I just tilted it. So, even though there is an O-ring right here, this is not, the O-ring is not the failure point. There's actually a mechanical seal that will start to leak, and actually goes against a ceramic surface. We can take a look at that real fast. So tightening up these bolts right in here on this housing will not get rid of that leak. It won't actually do anything. You actually have to get this mechanical seal set from Headhunter themselves. They're really nice guys. They know their product really well. I think this is about $50, something like that, for this set. Oh, that's it. Isn't that impressive? This little guy right here is the complete kit. Now they'll send you a PDF, but unfortunately that PDF is not in a vector. And so the tighter you go in to zoom in on that PDF, the more blurry it gets and less it makes any sense. And these are really small parts, so that PDF doesn't do a lot of good for any of us. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take all these bolts out. These are actually hex headed. I'll get a driver for that. I can point this part out before we start. Right back here is a service access. So if you ever had to mechanically unseize this pump, you would take this plug off, and then you put a screwdriver in there and turn it by hand. That got stuck. Unfortunately, most of the time these things are situated in a bus, or you can't. The wall's right there, so you can't get to it anyways. And this main plumbing is pretty hard to just kind of move it or scooch it a little bit. So just getting to that little guy right there is quite a bit of work. Obviously the entire pump has to be removed. I've tried to do it without doing that, but it's got to be done. And then when we separate this thing holds about a gallon of water inside of it, and that's going to be always in there. Before you start the pump back up, you also need to make sure you prime it. The easiest way to prime it is just take this cap off right there and pour water into it. So that's going to be a vital thing to do. If you're not going to pour water in that way, as long as you open the valve to the tank so water would come in, you still have to take this cap off to let the air out that would be trapped in there. Either way will work. You just want to make sure you have water coming out of here before you put the cap back on, and don't start up the pump with that cap off. Otherwise it just shoots all that water right back out there, because it's this whole thing gets pressurized. You'll notice the O-ring right there. I think the maximum pressure on this thing is supposed to be about 60 psi, but this does run off of 110 power, just like it says right there. All right, looks like it's a 5mm. Of course, you could use T-handle hex heads, but this is easier, right? So these are pretty long bolts right there. I think it's safe to say they've been getting a little bit wet. All right. We can't get this separated now. Alright. There we go. Huh. I feel like maybe somebody's been in here before. You guys can see somebody put all that sealant in there and I dumped water everywhere. Let's keep that right there. Sealant all around the O-ring. But what happens is it gets, this chamber obviously has water in it, then it gets into this chamber right here, and that chamber is from that seal that's behind this entire impeller right here. To take this thing off, I'm gonna have to loosen this screw to loosen, or this nut. In order to loosen that, that's where we have to get access to the motor back here so we can hold that while we turn that. That is 14, let's see. No, 13. Nailed it. First time. I'm gonna have to hold the back of that motor right here. Alright, see, I'm kind of turning it. Can you see that? It's hard to know if you can see anything. Alright. It's always good to take pictures of what you're doing too, so you know how this all goes back together anyways. Luckily, I'm taking a video. This will pull out. So inspect that. And I'll be honest, this thing is dead. So this doesn't look too good. Well, I guess so much for a quick, easy video. I guess this is what a bad pump looks like. So now I have to get with my client and find out what they want to do. This thing's been molested a number of times now. And, at any rate, there's the seal right there we were going to replace. It's a two-part seal. That part goes against the housing back there. This rubber part seals against the ceramic part right there. So now I get to make another decision in my life. Great. So I don't know if you can see this section right here. It's a little bit worn out. And this is basically the pump or the impeller. I said there's a, it's not the standard looking impeller you would normally see. It's just a whole bunch of discs. So great. I guess I'll have to make another video at some other point in my life. So this was a little bit faster video than I thought it was going to be. Oh, the surprises that you learn when you take stuff apart. Well, I guess the bad news is it's worse than I thought. Let's see if you guys can see in there. As you can see, those little veins. Focus. They're all broken at the base too, all the way around. Maybe back there's a better view of it. There, maybe. Focus. Oh, at any rate, there it is. So I think this pump is kaput. That's disappointing. That's a big investment for somebody. So I guess we'll just put a new pump in. So here's one's actually installed and working. It'll get pretty good water pressure from this thing. That's cool. not what it looks like in person. It's a nice straight line in person. And so the switch just turns on right there, and there it's running. Go ahead and turn that off. Now this has to pressurize a big accumulator tank on the other side of the bus. But then it should just turn off. If it can't build up pressure, it'll turn off and try it again, turn off and try it again, then you'll get an alarm right there, and you can reset it right there. But look at that, it turned off. Of course, you can also just turn off the power, just unplug it and plug it back in. Well, that's how it's supposed to work. So now back in there, you can see this accumulator tank. So this is how I'm gonna help. Now I'll just go ahead and use my cup and fill this thing up. All right, so that slides out. It's doing the last one here, and we're venting. Of course, there's the door again.